Good morning. I forgot my water. Hold on. Okay. Oh my gosh, I forgot a needle. I'm pretty sure. Oh my gosh, hold on again. I thought I had everything. And then I did not. All right, so this morning we are gonna start with kind of prepping our hoops. So cutting out our pattern first, and then we'll move on to stitching a little bit. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is cut out these 3. And then if you get ahead of me, we're gonna cut this out this is the stick and stitch, just cut around the edge there. Hopefully you have all of your supplies and everyone has received their kits. I haven't heard from anyone that they have not received a kit, so hopefully you have everything. Also, I can see your messages during the live, so if you are here live, feel free to leave your comments. Don't use the question box or anything like that. I don't know where to find those. And I'm busy stitching, so I'm not going to go looking for it. So just leave like a regular comment and I will see that and answer questions as I'm stitching. If you're watching this after the live is over, you can still leave a comment on the video or message me directly and I will get back to you about your question. But if you have a question, probably somebody else does too. So feel free to ask them. I actually decided I'm gonna make this just slightly bigger for the roof line. You can cut it exactly. Oh look, I'm gonna have to now. No, it's not straight. It'll be fine. I just think that looks a little, when you draw it, it looks a little different than when you start cutting. I guess I could do a little bit bigger here. All right. And our little circle. Okay, that is not very round. If you cut on the line, it will be round. Oops, or don't. I cut off part of the edge. That'll be all right. I'm concentrating. Okay. There is our pieces. And then I said it at the beginning, but if you're brand new to just logging in, we're just cutting around the edge. Oh, we're not done cutting this. I lied. Cut around the edge of your stick and stitch. And then we're gonna cut out the windows. I forgot. So I usually just cut like that and then cut out to the corners. And then cut around the edge of the window. These scissors are too big. I should have found some smaller ones. But it will be all right. Okay. I did try it 2 different ways. I tried cutting these out while I was cutting the felt, and it was awful. So I would not do that if I was you. You definitely can if you want to try to, but I found it was easier to do it, could cut the pattern first and then cut the felt after. But if you want to try it a different way, then please feel free. My way is not the only way. But I did try it both ways. And have all these little tiny scraps of paper. The hardest one is that curved one up above the door. We will survive though. Okay. One more. I almost brought my embroidery scissors over to cut this, and then I was like, don't do it. It's not worth it. Don't cut paper with your embroidery scissors. Almost there. Okay. Now we're gonna cut out the brown felt, and then we're gonna cut out the door and then cut another piece of felt. So hold on to that. We'll cut some more on it in a minute. All right. I have found it's easier to cut the felt out if I pin this to the felt. So I've got my pin cushion with all of my needles. And I'm just going to pin both sides. Your kits will have 2 pins. If you only have one, that's totally fine. One needle to hold it down, but I just use my embroidery needles. Nothing too fancy. I couldn't find my fabric scissors, so this might be a little bit rough. We're just gonna cut out those pieces. Why does cutting take so much concentration? I can embroider and talk at the same time, but cutting is like really hard to do. Especially when I'm trying to like cut really straight edges. Yes. Okay. And then we'll cut out our little what is this? Peppermint? Oh, I didn't put that away. This will be harder without my fabric scissors. Okay, hold on. Let me make this smaller. That needle's very big. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit harder to cut around it, but we will survive. Maybe now I get my embroidery scissors out. That would probably be easier. I'm gonna take that needle out. That's what I'm gonna do. That's probably good. Trim this edge a little tiny bit. Okay. Set those aside. I cannot find the rest of my dark brown felt. So I mean, I have these ones that I already stitched on. I might start using that, but just to cut out, we'll start here. I like to not waste things. So I'm going to start in the corner because then I have 2 edges already done. But feel free to not be in the corner if you don't want to. And then I am going to pin it down in 2 different spots just to keep it nice and secure. And then we're just going to cut that out. Okay, and then we got to cut out I got to get my embroidery scissors. I didn't even bring them over here. I'm not going to be able to cut out those tiny spaces with these big giant scissors. Let's get out these little gold ones. So I'm just going to do like I did with my paper and cut out the center and then cut out to the edges. And then cut around the edge. This is the boring part, I'm afraid. Today will not be exciting. Don't get stuck by your needles if they're sticking out like mine. Cleaning my desk yesterday and I could have sworn I had put everything that I needed in I have like a fabric bag with all of my stuff, and I could have sworn I put the brown felt in there, the dark brown felt, and then I couldn't find it today, so I don't know what happened to it. But I have this color. We were making, my daughter was the Grinch for Halloween this year. And so she took one of her stuffed dogs and we made him an antler so that she could carry him around, and he was Max, the dog. They put that big reindeer, or that big antler on him when he's like pulling the sleigh. And so we used this color. A felt for that. I was glad I had it laying around instead of white or something. I can find the white. There's plenty of white felt. Okay. So from the other side, I can kind of see it's like a little bit like rounded and not quite square. So I'm just gonna trim that up a little bit better. Yeah, okay, and then we'll do this one. These are not very sharp. And this window is small. Stick it in, make a hole. This rounded one is not very fun. I'm sorry. We're just doing our best. I want different scissors. Let's see if these ones are better. These are my grandma's old gingers. We'll see if they'll be a little bit better. They are not. What else we got? I doubt that these will be sharp at the end. Oh my gosh, they are. Look at that. I need ones that are sharp on the end, not sharp at the Sharp on this end, not sharp on this end. Okay, this could use some trimming though. I could probably sharpen all my scissors. Okay. All right, now you can take that off and then we'll cut out the door. So just go ahead and cut that out. And then we're gonna cut that out of the felt as well. We're gonna put that right on top. And again, I'm just gonna go in the corner because then it cuts two of my edges for me already. I'm gonna get these sharp ones back out. Maybe. Okay. And we have all of our little pieces. Should have your house, your door, your roof line, and your peppermint. Now we're only gonna use the house today, so put the rest of these somewhere else that they're not gonna get lost. We're not even gonna use our stick and stitch today. We're not doing this yet, so put it all in a bag. All right. Now, the biggest rule of embroidery is making sure that your fabric is tight in your hoop. That's why it's important to have like a good hoop. When I was talking about supplies, making sure that you don't have gaps in between your hoops is really important. Because if your fabric is not tight, then your project will not, you won't be able to stitch it as easily. So that's why I use these plastic ones, because I love them. They hold my fabric very tight. Okay. So we're just gonna get that centered. I don't worry about ironing before I start, because if you pull it tight enough, then you shouldn't have a problem. So I always tighten first and then pull it a little bit and then tighten some more. If you have, if you're using like a bamboo or a beechwood hoop or something, if you have a screwdriver, it's a little bit easier to get things tight, but I get it pretty tight and then I start pulling my fabric tight, and I start at the top and I just work my way around, all the way around. You want this to be like drum tight. So when you like tap on it, it sounds like a drum. So we're just gonna work our way all the way around the hoop and pull that tight. If you have any like wrinkles, you should be able to pull, like it should be tight enough that it pulls those wrinkles out. And then I'm gonna tighten this again, as tight as I can get it. These hoops I can tighten with my fingers. Bamboo or beechwood, I usually have to use a screwdriver, and then just do it again. I usually like push this side up against my chest or my stomach, and then I pull that. Okay. Should be nice and tight. Now, while you're working, if your fabric starts to come loose a little bit, just pull it tight again. Make sure that your hardware is tightened and pull your fabric tight. You can do it the whole time that you're stitching. I like to just cut off the corners because these will get caught up in your work. I just cut them off. I usually actually cut a circle piece, but I just cut off these corners. I don't cut it I will trim it better after I'm done stitching, but the corners just get sucked in while you're stitching if you don't round them out a little. Okay, there we go. Ooh, we are ready. All right, so today we're just going to stitch our house to our fabric. So center it, if you have your point in the middle of your hoop, that should be your center. And then wherever you want it on your hoop, if you want to move it down, you can, and have more space at the top or whatever. I want mine in like kind of the middle. Okay. And then if you have multiple needles to hold it down, that'd be great. But if you only have one, that's fine too. Just something to hold it to your fabric. If you only have one, I would probably move it around a little bit. I would put it, like if we start at this corner, then have it like holding, like have it down here. So we're just gonna go like, and hold that down. But if you have multiple needles, then you can put them in a few different spots. You'll be fine with one, but multiple will hold it a little bit better. I'm gonna put one over here too. And then kind of straighten this out. It might pull a little funny if you're pinning it down, so just make sure you kind of pull it out so it's like straight again. All right, now I'm gonna give you an option for two different stitches. One is extremely beginner friendly and the other is a little bit harder. So if you're brand new to stitching, then you might find the running stitch a little bit easier. So DMC thread, always pull from the numbered end. So when you're pulling your thread out, pull from the numbered end. I usually, if this is your first time stitching, I would measure from your fingertips, pull your arm out and cut like just past your elbow, like maybe to your bicep. So bicep. If you're an experienced stitcher, obviously you can cut it as long as you want, but if you have a longer piece of thread, you're more likely to have it tangle. So if you're having problems with your thread, like getting in knots and causing you problems, you probably need a shorter piece of thread. If you have experience with stitching, I'm not going to judge how long you have it because I usually measure from my fingertip to the middle of my chest. So I have a longer piece. Okay, and then embroidery thread has 6 strands. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna separate it a little bit. So if you separate it, you can see those individual threads. We're gonna pull out 3, okay? So this is just twisted together. Now, if you just start pulling it apart, you're gonna get a knot. So if you pay attention a little bit and like hold it apart and then just slowly untwist those, then you won't get a knot. So I usually just kind of hold it in one hand and untwist it with the other. Okay, so keep your 3 strands. We'll use them. You'll need more thread than what you've just pulled out. So we're just going to use 3 strands at a time. Okay. There is a lot of ways to thread a needle. Some people are going to tell you one way is better than another, but I think the best way is however you can do it. So if you need to get a needle threader, you can. I usually just get mine really wet with my tongue and then I flatten it between 2 fingers. I usually do a nail and a finger and flatten it that way, and then it should just go right in. If you're struggling, then you might have a needle eye that's too small. That's why I recommend the size 5 needles, because usually the eye is big enough. And then we're just gonna knot the end. I am a big believer in knotting thread. I know some people do embroidery and they do 0 knots, and I don't know how they do that. That's crazy to me. But I usually just tie, there we go, a little knot, and then I double knot it. So I just wrap it around my finger and then put the tail in and then pull that tight when it's on top. And sometimes I have to tie 3 or 4 knots if they end up, you know, one here, one here, one here. It's okay. Just once you have 2 or 3 knots, we just don't want it pulling through the fabric. So, all right, I'm going to show you a running stitch first. So if you're a very, very beginner, that is probably going to be your easiest option. So if you're wanting to do a blanket stitch, that's what we're going to do next. So this is for the beginners if a blanket stitch is going to be too difficult. So the first stitch is going to be the hardest just because your felt is not laying down onto the fabric yet. So we're going to go just up a little ways. I don't even know a measurement, but about that far. And then we're going to do a running stitch. So we're just going to do a little bit of a stitch, I don't know, that far about. Oh, should get out my hoop stand. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back up. We're going to try and keep all of our stitches this length. Okay, so we're going to go this far and come up. So come up about there. And keep on this same line as much as possible. Hold on, let me get my hoop stand over here so that I'm not like wiggling all over. Hold on, this is for a Q-snap. I haven't done a stitch along for so long, I forgot that it's hard to see what I'm doing if I'm like holding everything. Okay. Okay. So we're just gonna go forward. We're just gonna keep going forward a stitch. So a running stitch is like a dashed line. So I usually will hold it so it's straight so you can kind of see where you need to go down. So we're gonna go down here. And just keep those stitches as even as possible. You have a lot of room to practice because we're going around the whole house. So that's it. That's a running stitch, is just going up and down and making a dashed line. I'm going to go to the edge and then we'll do a blanket stitch up the side. If you feel like your stitches are starting to get crooked, use your thread as a guide. This thread matches this felt almost perfectly. And I very regularly use my thread as a guide, so don't feel like you're doing something wrong if you have to do it on every stitch. It's totally fine. And if it's a little crooked, I promise it's also fine. These are not meant to be perfect. This is not being done by a machine. It is not going to be perfect. I promise you, not even mine is. What is going on back here? I have like all these little tiny pieces of fabric that are getting everywhere. Oops, that's not going to be straight. Okay, we'll do one more stitch. Let me come up on the edge. That one's a little bit too close together, but that's okay. Get off. Okay, so there's your running stitch. If that's what you want to do, that's a very, very, very simple way. We're just wanting to get our felt held down, okay? That's the main point. We're gonna stitch on top of it as well. So that's a super easy way to do that. I personally like the look of a blanket stitch, so that's what we're going to do next. I'm just using the eye of my needle and pulling these out so I can start over. Okay. All right, now if you want to challenge yourself, or if you already know what you're doing, a blanket stitch, which is also very easy, but yeah. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna come up on the fabric, not in the felt. So we're in the corner. Hold on. Okay. And then we're gonna go down a stitch length, still not on the felt. Okay, we're still just on the fabric. Now we're not gonna pull it tight. We're gonna keep, oh, I think I did this wrong. I did it wrong, hold on. Just a second. Don't do this. Don't go back out like that. I have a hard time starting the blanket stitch. I mess up every time. Okay, so we're gonna come down in the fabric, kind of at that same angle. So we're just gonna go at an angle there. And then we're gonna come up. So we're gonna come up straight from where that stitch went down. So this one is a little bit smaller than I originally planned. So you see how I'm coming up on the fabric? So I went up in the fabric, down in the felt, up in the fabric, okay? So now we have this loop that we've left open. We're gonna come up inside that loop. And then we're gonna pull it snug. So there's our first stitch. And then we're gonna do that every time. We're gonna go down in the felt, up in the fabric. So we're gonna go a stitch length, however big you want to make your stitches. Don't make them too big. Like don't like come up here. Like that's too big. But right here is about good. So we're gonna keep that loop open. We're gonna come up in the fabric, inside of the loop, and pull it snug. So then it creates this border. So we have the border here, and we have these little, we'll have these little like hash marks. So let me show you this one, or there's this one. So you can kind of see the difference. So it depends on how you want it to look. I'm using 3 different felts. This is a felt, this is a felt, this is a different. Okay, so this will take longer. It will take not a lot longer, but it will take longer to do. And you're kind of using 2 hands. So I can easily do it on my lap. Like I'll put my hoop down sometimes if I'm using both hands at the same time. Yeah, I usually just set it on my lap if I don't have a hoop stand, which if you're new, you probably don't, but it's a lot easier with a hoop stand just because you can use your 2 hands. But we're just gonna do that all the way around. So once we get, oh, that one was too small. Hold on, that's gonna bug me. Try to make sure you're staying like on this line, as well as keeping your stitches the same distance apart. It's a practice thing. Like you'll have to practice it. I know some people will like draw on their finger. They'll like draw like a line here and a line here and a line here. So then they can like line it up perfectly. I don't care that much about it being that exact, but if you feel like it's going to bug you if it's not straight, then you could do that. Just get a ruler and draw with a pen or a marker or something on your skin. I actually saw a reel recently where somebody had tattooed like a little ruler on their finger for marking stuff like this so that everything was like even. I mean, it's kind of a fun idea if you're getting tattoos anyways, but anyways, it was funny. I don't know why I like this stitch so much. Other than getting it started, I always mess up the beginning. I'm almost always like doing it the wrong way, but Once it gets going, it's really nice. I am going to stitch until I run out of thread, so that I can show you if you have to end it and start with a new one while you're working. So this is all we're doing today. If you want to go, nothing really exciting is going to happen. Okay, so on these corners, what we're going to do is we're going to go back into this hole that we just, we're a little bit further away than I want to be, actually. It'll be all right. Okay, so I'm going to go back down into this same one that I just went into. And then we're going to come to the corner. Okay. And then we're going to do it one more time. We're going to come back down into that. And then we're going to go straight up. Okay. And then we'll move forward. We'll do that at the peak too. So we'll do it on all the corners. So it'll happen again in a minute if you need to rewatch that. I think these got smaller. I am like all about the gingerbread houses this year. I really want to make a gingerbread house like mat for my front door. Like buy one of those brown mats and then just paint it. I think would be so fun. I keep seeing like people making garlands with cardboard and just like paint, or like the puffy paint, or whatever, those white markers, like those oil-based markers, and making like garlands with gingerbread houses. I think I'm gonna get like a window marker and do like a little gingerbread house on my window, on my front window, my front porch window. Okay, so we're gonna go, this is where we're gonna go into that same hole again. And then we're going to go up in this peak. And then we're going to go back down into that hole again. That'll just help hold our corners down a little bit better. And then we'll move on. But anyways, yeah, I've never drawn on my windows, but I think that would be so fun. Because then I could like erase them and put up, if I already have a window marker, then I can like draw snowflakes in January. And anyways, there is like 400 different gingerbread house crafts out there right now. And I want to do all of them. Maybe it's just because of this stitch along, but I'm like super excited about gingerbread houses this year. I also have never like dried oranges and made something with them, so I also want to do that. I think I'm gonna make a garland with oranges or a wreath. I don't know, I don't really have anywhere to put a wreath, but I do have somewhere I could put a garland. I just feel like being crafty this year. I saw a reel that showed, I think, brown butcher paper, and they drew a village on it in white and put it up against their tile in their kitchen. It was a backdrop for a hot chocolate bar. Oh my gosh, I think I saw that same reel. So cute. So cute. Like all the gingerbread things, please. All right, so we're at another corner. So we're gonna go down in that same hole, up in the corner. Dried oranges are so easy and smell so good. Yes, I know. That's why I want to do it. Need some smelling good. Okay, so I went back down again. This is the third time I'm doing it, so I'm hoping you got it under control now. Oh, I didn't pull that tight enough. Make sure you're pulling your corners tight enough. That will smell amazing. I want to do oranges and cloves. I heard apples and cloves are nice too. Yes, I'm sure that would be absolutely lovely. This is in my way a little. I just love like spicy smells. I have like an oil diffuser, so I usually have like something to smell nice. The other day I did, if you know doTERRA's oils, they have one called On Guard that's supposed to help with like sicknesses and stuff in the sicknesses period, I guess. But it has like orange and clove and maybe frankincense. I don't remember. But I added that to my diffuser with a little bit of vanilla. Oh, it was so lovely. Side note, what brand plastic coupe are you using? I am using, I don't know if it's either from Hobby Lobby or Michaels. So if it's from Hobby Lobby, it's the Artiste brand. And if it's from Michaels, it's Loops and Threads. As long as it has grooves in it, you should be good to go. Okay, so now that we're like nearing the end of our thread here, I'm just going to do this one more stitch and whoop, I did not pull all my thread. Hold on. That got pulled funny. Okay. So now this is all we have left of the thread. So we're going to tie it off and then start a new one. Hold on. I have to get that wet. And if you have to re-thread your needle and it starts looking like this and you can't get it through your needle, just trim this so they're all the same length again, because it just gets a little bit frayed, like being pulled through your fabric over and over and over. So if you need to re-thread it, just trim it a little bit. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna just go down just on the other side. So let me get a little bit closer. You see, I'm just gonna like loop it over this thread, like we pulled it tight, and then I'm just gonna go down on the other side of it and just tack it down. Like that. I'm teaching a macrame tree garland at my local library this week. It should be cute with a gingerbread village. Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. Okay, so now look how cute the back is. Isn't that nice? Okay, so we're just gonna hook our needle through one of these stitches. So we have a loop. And then I like to go through the loop 2 times. If your thread is long enough. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Okay, my needle cannot stay on. And then just go through it again, but go through it the same way. So then you're like doing like a double knot. I should have left a little bit more to tie this off. It's fine. I'll do it again in a minute. Okay, and then push your knot down to the bottom. And that's it. I usually have it on my needle and then I'll, hold on. Gotta thread my needle again. I hate threading needles. Okay. And then I usually just like run it through a few stitches that are around it so that I can like, my tails aren't everywhere. And then just trim it. Okay. So now let's start our next piece of thread. So if you're using a shorter piece, you're probably ready to use another piece of thread also. Hold on, threading my needle. Okay, so here's without a knot. Just wrap it around my finger and then just push the end through. My gosh, I keep bumping my thing. Just tie a knot. And then try and get another knot right on top of it. Yeah? Okay, so then we're gonna come back up in that same hole that we just went down in. And we're just gonna start again. So up on the, we're always doing the same. Up on the edge, down in the felt, up on the edge. and then we just keep going. So you can, if you're looking really closely, you can see that there's a little bit of a difference, but unless you're like really looking at it, plus we're going to stitch around this edge again, like on the fabric, so it'll get covered up. I got to get a drink. Hold on. I forget how hard it is to talk for like an hour. I love the way the stitches look for the corners. Yeah, I love the corners. You can do corners differently as well, but I just really like how they look because they're just so cute. That's what we're going for, right? Cute little houses. I want to not get pulled tight. All right, one more on this edge and then we'll do another corner. Okay, so we're going down in that same hole. Up on the corner. Pull it snug and go down again. Cute little corner. That is poking up a little bit. That's okay. And then we'll just keep going. We're almost done. Okay, I think I'll just stay on and finish this edge because I thought I would run out of thread earlier than I did. So we're almost done. I didn't start with, oh, that's crooked. Hold on. That will bug me. Maybe it won't. Oh, it's fine. I need to not be a perfectionist. Now, normally I like working left to right. So working right to left is like throwing me off. I don't like, because I'm right-handed, then my hand is like in the way. I don't know. It's weird. I have to work. Like when I'm doing a satin stitch, I have to go right to left. I don't know. Now I can't think. Anyways, it feels weird to be stitching this way. If you get a knot in your thread while you're working, by the way, most of the time it's just a slip knot. So usually you can just like pull the knot out. I'm sure I'll get a knot while I'm stitching eventually because I work with long pieces of thread, but I will show you when it comes up. But you should be able to just like pull the knot out. Like usually if there's a knot like right here, let's say, and you've got your two pieces right here, usually if you pull this and then pull either this side or this side, then that knot will just like release. So if you're getting knots, usually that will fix it. I went from having just 2 projects before Christmas for me to enjoy this and another stitch along to having to make some projects for family as gifts too. Now I want to work on everything. I try to only have one personal project going at a time so that I can work on commissions. But this time of year, I want to make everything. I want to make everyone gifts. I want to make all the fun craft ideas. I want to make stuff with the kids. It's a huge problem. And there is so many great craft ideas right now. Ugh, people are just so creative. But yeah, I think I have 3 personal projects started right now. So I just kind of hop between them. I think it's a good time of year for that. It was so rainy in Utah yesterday. So it was like a really good day to like sit and craft. Okay, so we're gonna do our corner right here. So I'm gonna go down here. It's a little bit close to this one. Obviously it's not quite right, but we're gonna go up and down and create that corner. And I'm gonna go down here. And our corner one will be the last one. Now, this is where we started. So just make sure when you're coming up where you have already started that you don't get into that knot. So you can kind of fill it from the back. I'll like fill it with my finger. I can fill that knot. So I'll kind of like push the knot out of the way from the back So I can go up in that same hole, but you just kind of have to be conscious of it. So, okay. So there is our corner. And then we're going to do the same thing when we ended it over here. We're going to do the same thing over here. We already have our loop. We're just going to go down on the other side of the loop where that knot is again and tack it down. And there we go. We have our outline done. That's what I'm doing. I'm jumping as I feel motivated. I figure that helps me keep me interested in all things and not feel overwhelmed. I'm making good progress. Yes, that's why I like having multiple projects too, because I stay motivated to work on something. Okay, so once you have your outline done, you could take your pins out. If you've had to move those around, that's totally fine as well. But we won't need to hold it down. Now that it's like tacked down, we'll be able to do like our windows and stuff without it. Unless you really want to keep them in, you can. But we will do the windows and door tomorrow. So that's where we're at for today. We're almost an hour in, so I think it's time to be done. Let me know if you have questions. Message me or comment on the reel, and I will get back with you. Have a good rest of your Monday, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.